Welcome to Rauta and one of the most anticipated black metal releases of late 2023. This one is Asagraum with the third album, Wail of Death, Ruptured. And it's one of those albums that I guess I'm not the only one expecting it to be good because, well, the two previous ones are just outstanding black metal albums. And as such, of course, the band has evolved, changed over the years, and become one of those steady lineup bands as well. I mean, their live shows are good. The band has proved itself to be not only a good studio band, but also a good live band. Here is the inlay, just plaque, and of course the track listing here on the back side of it. And then we have the album, naturally. This one is released through its Circle Productions, the Norwegian label, as was the previous one. And then we have, of course, the cover. Compared to the previous ones, this is a little bit different take, now featuring two members of the band, songwriter, vocalist, guitarist, Obscura here, and then the drummer. And these are the only members who are part of the steady lineup. The live lineup is a little bit vague. Here they are, once again said, guitarist, well, bass, vocals, and drummer A. Mortheimer, and then liner notes, what have you. Inside, of course, the booklet, you will find the lyrics and a little bit more photos. Decided to go all black and white this time as opposed to the previous ones, which were more, say, colorful. Now, this is merely a coincidence, but a good one. I was just actually today, before listening to this one, and yesterday I was going through the two first albums because I'm actually going through my record collection in alphabetical order, well, album by album, in order to figure out which to let go and which to keep. That is, the ones that have standing the test of time, so to speak. And Asagraum is one of those bands that I am happy to say all the albums are definitely worth owning. All the albums are really, really good, and so far the first album is my favorite. That was actually the album of the year for me when it came out in 2017, Potestas Magicum Diaboli. Back then the lineup was a little bit different, and of course the band was new and all that stuff. Now, not only on Metal Archives, if I remember correctly, also Rate Your Music side, Dawn of Infinite Fire, an album 2 years later. The second one was actually rated a little bit better than the first one. Now, here I am going to disagree a bit. Both are great albums, but in my opinion, the first one is the better. Now, I don't want to sound like a negative jack, but here it is, once again going. And I'm going to say, Wail of Death Ruptured is not as good as the two previous ones. That doesn't mean that this album isn't good, because this one is good. Let's get it right out of the way here. But something tiny amount of magical essence is missing. Now, this of course goes with personal expectations, as well as, you know, things might have the kind of a grower element, which means that later on I might just say the other way around. But so far, giving these already quite a few listens, I'm saying this one is good, but it's not as great as the two previous ones. What has changed then? Really not that much. The thing here is, Asagraum has kept its style very, very steady, and not too many changes. But sometimes it is, and everybody who has been listening to black metal pretty much know it. Sometimes you have the magic essence for the first album. Maybe you even let it seep to the second album. That is, sometimes second album picks from the pieces of the first one, but then you have like more polished, more honed version of that. So there is no law or no rule of thumb to say that whenever first album is the best and the second one is the later one, or the other way around. But this is very, very typical for a lot of bands. Now, of course, there are exceptions to the rule, say Marduk, who, in my opinion, only a lot later did their best release it. But a lot of bands, including bands like, for example, Mayhem, some would say Immortal, did the best work among two first albums, and that's the kind of a rule you go with. And Asagraum is not able to change that generic rule of thumb. That is, while it sounds quite the same, that is safe and sound, being Asagraum with its given signature style and all, it now seems like it's less captivating. Now, mind you, the difference is not that big. So when I'm saying these differences, I'm basically nitpicking. Meaning that if this wasn't good, it wouldn't go to my personal collection, which is the case with this one. But since we have to be kind of a critical, especially when doing reviews and comparing the work to the previous ones or whatever, well, yeah, sometimes you have to do a little bit of ranking and then you have to justify it. And here I'm trying to do it. Basically, Whale of Death Ruptured is following the tradition of second wave black metal. There is fundamentally nothing original or nothing new as such, but it's more like taking the second wave of black metal to the year 2023, which in essence makes it a little bit, not boring, but not as inspired as the first one. What is the difference then, you might ask? Well, I would say all the songs are solid, but they lack the more memorable parts. For example, what Dawn of Infinite Fire had. There's a couple of things going on with that album, like these are the kind of a killer parts, which is not so much the case with this Whale of Death. And everything here is like, it's almost like you're expecting your head to blow up because there's something magic is going to happen. It's almost like you have the need to sneeze and you're like, oh my god, oh my goodness, oh, it's coming, and it's not. The point is, you kind of don't get the relief even though you're just feeling fine, and that's the problem with quotation marks with the album. Now, for example, there's this fourth track, which is kind of a mid-tempo. I mean, it's fantastic in contrast towards the faster tracks, which are more or less dominating the album, but somehow it's more like working only because of the contrast. As a track, it's not that interesting, even though I like the dark atmosphere, the generic kind of a almost sinister feeling with that. Which leads us to the best sides of the album. They're definitely when the tempo picks up, when it's faster and more aggressive, even with the somewhat melodic parts, which are not exactly the most extreme stuff in the genre. Now, everybody has different ways of describing extremity in black metal. I find it happening in two ways. Either you go for really raw, primitive, something out of this world kind of a stuff, which is the case with bands like Iliarn or early Darkthrone. Or then you go very, very fast and intense, aggressive, violent, which is the case with, say, Panzerdivision Marduk. Or pure Holocaust battles in the north kind of stuff. Now, Asagraum is neither of these extremities, and that might be one of the reasons why I don't find it that fantastic of an album. Like I said, it's good, but maybe not great. And it seems like these could be, being a little bit mean here, kind of a leftovers compared to the previous ones. But once again, it's a good album, and those who enjoyed two previous Asagraum albums should not be that much disappointed. Some might even think this could be the best album so far, but here I'm going to disagree. In my opinion, the first one is the best and this one is the least good. But overall, no major flaws. Where we come to talk about those rather screamy vocals or the guitar sounds or drum sounds or the general feeling of individual riffs or songs, can't really bitch about anything. It's good as it is, and I wouldn't fix a thing really. And on top of that, it doesn't really get boring because it's only 36 minutes of an album. So it's a little bit shorter than the previous one, for example. But that doesn't work against for the album. Actually, it might really support it in a way. But yeah, if you like second wave black metal, coming dark, melodic, somewhat faster, you're set to go. Asagraum doesn't let you down, but they're not going to reinvent themselves. Who knows what happens in the future, but so far, so good. All three albums getting green light and all that stuff. Now, off you go to check it out. You will find links provided in the description box. Check out these gals live if you have the possibility. I will guarantee that they will play a good show. And of course, listen to the music on the albums. Thank you for your time with the review. Take care. Bye-bye.